Hey there. It's a beautiful day. I found a quiet place to sit and read and also to write. And as I'm sitting here, this thought came to my mind how sometimes, for different reasons, we've stayed too long in personal or professional spaces. And we've convinced ourselves that staying is a sign of strength. And here's the thing, the scary part of all of this is that the truth lies in knowing when to leave our comfort zone. I know that there are different reasons where we may stay in certain spaces. Sometimes a lack of resources, experience, support, understanding, a belief that the situation or the space that we're in is where we have to stay because we deserve whatever we're experiencing in that space. Mental, emotional, financial, physical, spiritual, psychological reasons may also be in the way and one of the reasons why we stay for too long. And eventually, at some point, we start to believe that we have no choice. We start to believe that the longer I stay in the space, things will change, even though we feel miserable, even though we're not happy. It's scary to think about leaving our comfort zone without having a place to land, without having maybe the necessary supports or things that we may need for our stability or our success. It's also scary to stay too long and miss out on potential opportunities or experiences. I know that each of us have our own personal set of challenges that we're always dealing with. And I know that from that perspective, it may not be easy for a person to take a leap and say, I'm going to leave this space, this situation, this experience, this job. Sometimes, yes, we do have to take things into consideration and come up with a plan because all of our situations are different. What I will say, and this is based on my own personal experience, is that sometimes there comes a point where you realize the wind is blowing my notebook. There comes a point where you realize that you can't stay anymore. You don't want to stay in the comfort zone of doing things the way you've normally been doing them. You don't want to stay in spaces that seem to, in essence, suck the life out of you. You don't want to stay in spaces where you feel that you're not seen or heard. And so this is a reminder, something that I was telling myself today, that just because you stayed too long in some spaces doesn't mean that it's too late to start over. Just because you stayed too long doesn't mean that it's too late to reimagine what's next. The most valuable asset that we have is trust in knowing that when we come to a space of understanding that it's time to leave our comfort zone, digging deep into our faith and our community will give us the additional belief that it's okay to take that leap. The most valuable asset that we have is time. So on this day, I wanted to share this message with you that just because you feel you've stayed too long in a space or experience or whatever situation you're dealing with, doesn't mean that that dream, that opportunity, that experience, that trip, that job, whatever it is, that project that you want to pursue has to continue to remain on the shelf. Sometimes all it takes is digging deep into ourselves and also carving out this time to really sit in silence and meditate and pray and make that decision. Sometimes it's a really bold decision. Sometimes people may not understand the choices that we're making when we get to that space and say, you know what? I'm ready to leave my comfort zone. I imagine that there are so many things that you've been wanting to do for different reasons, and you've decided that I can't do this right now. I don't have the time. And here's the thing, you do have the time. You've just been stuck in this space of believing that you've stayed too long to do anything, so that it's too late. And yet, every day we hear these stories of individuals who are making these really bold decisions to pursue projects and activities and experiences that they had put on the shelf for so long. We're hearing stories of individuals that are planning these trips and going back to school and pursuing relationships and connections and traveling and new careers, just because they made that decision to say, you know what? Just because I stayed too long doesn't mean that it's too late. So I hope that on this day, you think about where you are and don't beat yourself up too much about it. We're so hard on ourselves and can easily become consumed with guilt and shame about how we've stayed too long in a situation. And sometimes that cripples us and prevents us from seeing beyond where we are. And I really hope that today, or maybe tomorrow, you take a look at yourself in the mirror and you let yourself know, just because I've stayed too long doesn't mean that it's too late. There's a whole entire world of opportunities out there for you. There are so many stories that I know that are on your heart and in your mind that you want to share, and you've been holding on to them and watching other people's stories and other people's lives and wishing that that could be your life in some way. Let's stop wishing and start doing. And it's scary. Even myself, I think about it too, that sometimes I feel like I've stayed too long in spaces. What would have happened if I left certain jobs earlier? I don't want to go back to that guilt of thinking about the time that has passed in spaces where maybe I should have left. I realize that sometimes I've completed that experience, that journey, and I should look at where I am right now and start thinking about what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to experience? How do I want to feel? That's the big one. How do I want to feel? I want to feel more joy. I want to embrace more joy. I want more moments of laughter. I want more experiences that make my heart soar. And in some way, I know you want that too. We're all in this together. And as I was thinking about this today, it made me think of individuals that have sometimes felt like I stayed too long and now it's too late. Let's reframe that. Just because I stayed too long does not mean it is too late. It takes courage to be able to make that one decision to say that I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. And I believe that you have that courage. So I hope that today you'll take a moment to yourself, sit somewhere where you can experience some silence and stillness. And take one step towards moving out of your comfort zone. And hopefully, when you do that, you'll share with all of us that one step that you're taking. I'd love to hear that. And if you get a chance, go outside, regardless of the weather. I'm sitting out here and I can hear the birds chirping and I can smell the different flowers. It smells absolutely beautiful. I think it's jasmine that I'm smelling. I believe in you and know that we're gonna do this. You're not alone. We're gonna do this together. Have an amazing day.